Welcome to the World Gold Council's Unearthed Podcast. I'm Joe Cavatoni.
And I'm John Reade, and we're here in downtown Ottawa visiting the Royal Canadian Mint.
Welcome to Unearthed, the podcast where we unearth golden insights from across the industry. I'm Joe Cavatoni, Senior Market Strategist for the Americas at the World Gold Council.
And I'm John Reade, Senior Market Strategist for Europe and Asia. Today, we're speaking first with Marie Lemay, President and CEO of the Royal Canadian Mint, as well as with Rob Sargent, Director of Refining and Inventory Management. Marie, welcome.
Thank you for having me. It is a great pleasure to have you with us here in Ottawa.
Why don't we start, Marie, with a simple question. What's the role of the Royal Canadian Mint?
Our core mandate is to produce and distribute Canada's circulation coin. Working with financial institutions and armored car carriers, we manage an entire ecosystem that is essential to supporting daily Canadian trade and commerce. We have a unique coin management system. We have a 24/7 lens on when and where coins are needed, and we can move them around to meet the demand. This actually allows us to operate very efficiently and produce the right amount of coins while ensuring no shortages. The Mint is a Crown corporation wholly owned by the Government of Canada. We are mandated to operate in anticipation of profit. We function on a commercial basis, and we have become diversified under two main businesses. So the circulation, concentrated in Winnipeg, and precious metals, which is the focus of our Ottawa facility. Under our precious metal operations, we refine gold and silver. We produce bullion coins, bars, and related products. We also securely store precious metal and produce collector coins, as well as metals. We even offer gold and silver exchange-traded receipts traded on the Toronto Stock Exchange, which offers investors title to fractions of physical metal securely stored at the Mint. Our diversified business model has allowed the Mint to remain profitable and produce good value for Canadians by paying regular dividends to our shareholder, the Government of Canada.
Can you explain how the Mint supports the mining and the precious metals industry?
The Mint has more than a century of experience in precious metal refining. Our gold refinery has operated since 1911. We are an LBMA certified gold and silver refiner. Our refining business proved extremely strategic during the pandemic. We adapted our safety protocols to keep accepting and refining deposits and became an essential partner to Canada's mining and financial sectors seeking liquidity at a very critical time. We focus our service on North American-based refinery customers and keep offering them strategic support through a multitude of outturn products, ranging from small bars to 400 ounces institutional bars. And on the production side, we are known worldwide for our market-leading gold and silver maple leaf bullion coins. These 4.9s, or 99.99% pure gold and silver bullion coins, are unrivaled in their combination of purity and security. They contribute to branding Canada as a source of high-quality, responsibly sourced gold and silver. We pride ourselves on our responsible metal sourcing, and we seek to attract refining customers who share our environmental, social, and governance values. Collaboration with industry partners is also greatly important to advancing our ESG journey. We were very proud to contribute to the development of the World Gold Council's Declaration of Responsibility and Sustainability Principles, as well as to join in the LBMA and WGC's joint gold bar traceability pilot. This project helped inform the implementation of an exciting new distributed ledger technology solution to track the provenance and custody of the gold entering our refinery, from mine to mint, which gives investors in precious metal another reason to place their trust in us and in the quality of our bullion products. As part of an extensive digital transformation that is underway at the Mint, we have recently added a new refinery business portal that provides a rapid and secure way to view and manage refinery requests and transactions online.
Marie, that's really exciting, and thanks for the update. We've been joined by Marie Lemay, President and CEO of the Royal Canadian Mint. Marie, thanks for the time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We just finished speaking with Marie Lemay. We're now joined by Rob Sargent, Director of Refining and Inventory Management here at the Mint. Rob, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, John and Joe.
So let's start with some basic questions. How does the refinery take its feedstock of impure gold and turn it into products that can be bought by investors and collectors?
We're a two-step refiner. So the first step is about getting out all of the base metals. So we make recipes targeting roughly 70% gold. We put it into a furnace where we melt it, and then we use chemical process to extract the copper, nickel, tin, etc. That leaves us with an end product that is around 99% pure gold. We then take that 99% pure gold and put it through a secondary refining process called gold electrolysis. And that will take the gold from 99 to 4/9. In some cases, we also do a double electrolysis process to take it to 5/9. So we have the capability of making both 4 and 5/9 gold. Once you have the cathode, the output of electrolysis, then it's really just about converting it to a sellable product. In the refinery, we make all of the investment bars. So we will make the good delivery bar, 400 ounce, the 100 ounce COMEX bar, gold kilobars, and gold grain to sell to clients. We also supply all of the gold to the Ottawa manufacturing facility.
So aside from the 5/9 gold, which is, as far as I know, unique or almost unique, what else makes the Royal Canadian Mint refining facilities special?
I think, it's our legacy. We've been in the refining business here in downtown Ottawa for over 100 years, started in 1911. So there's that brand recognition, as a Crown corporation owned by the government of Canada, there's that security, trust, integrity component that, allows the people dealing with us to be confident in their settlements and in their ability to do business with us. I think our location is unique in that we're conveniently located close to the Quebec-based mines in the Val-d'Or area, and also close to the Northern Ontario mines. So from a delivery, from a liquidity point of view, the transportation to our facility is quick, right? So that time to market for them is short.
So we had the opportunity to tour the facility and absolutely were impressed by the number of coins that were actually coming through the production line. And so much about what's appealing to gold, or about the gold, or alluring about gold, is its physical nature. So when we think about the digitalization of gold in the supply chain, why don't you talk a little bit about what and how that could be impactful?
So I think it comes down to that, again, around the transparency, right? We've always had good responsible sourcing practices. And where the clients that we source our gold from all comply to the LBMA's responsible gold guidance. And so we have that trust and security and transparency. The Bullion Genesis, the platform, is an extension of that and just allows it to be more accessible and transparent to the rest of the supply chain.
And what other benefits would distributed ledger technology potentially bring to the Royal Canadian Mint, maybe the industry in general?
I think as you get into this and you digitize the supply chain, then it opens up maybe different avenues for different products or different business arrangements that you could do through the digital platform that would be supported with a physical backing, but it just would allow you to do business differently.
And you have quite a few unique markings, hallmarking, digital markings and coding that you use for your product. I'm imagining all of that's going to get woven into this better technology for tracking and tracing. Is that correct?
Correct. There are 8 or 9 attributes that get digitized. One of which I think is important is the security feature on our gold 400 ounce bars and our gold kilo bars. So we took a project on 2 or 3 years ago to take the DNA technology that exists on our bullion coins and has existed on our bullion coins since 2014 and use that same sort of fingerprinting technology on the bullion 400 ounce bar and the kilo bar. So now the owner of that bar would have the ability to validate that it is indeed an RCM bar, and then with the Bullion Genesis platform, be able to look at its transaction history and its origin of its gold.
That's fascinating. And this is technology you said it originated with coins and it's now making its way more commonly. Is it on every bar that you produce?
It is currently on every 400-ounce gold bar and every gold kilo bar.
Are there any other benefits that distributed ledger technology could provide to the precious metals industry from your perspective?
I think as the supply chain grows and more participants get onto a digitized supply chain, then I think you have opportunities to streamline data flow as well. So to share data, for example, mines can share some of their ESG reports, their mining licenses, things that add value to the how they extract the product, which would come to the producer, the refiner, who then can attach that to the end product. So the investor would not only be secure in buying a product from RCM, but they'd understand the origins of the gold and that. So that could all that data could flow and streamline some of the data silos, some of the information we require from the mines, some of the information the auditors require from us. All of that could be more easily done if it was all on the supply chain.
So we're always keen and interested to hear people's perspective on evolution of the industry, transparency and tracking in particular. Can you explain a little bit more about the origins of this technology, the DNA technology that came about in the coin space and now you're using in bars?
So I think it's driven out of, ensuring that the investor or the end client, the owner of a coin, has confidence in the coin that they have, that it's not counterfeited, that it hasn't been forged, right? Gold's a high value asset, so there's always a risk in the industry of people getting a fake coin, right? So our bullion coins have a number of security features, of which one that we did was the DNA technology. It's very unique. It can't be counterfeited. So if you have it, you can check and validate that your coin is a legitimate coin. So similarly, when it came time to incorporate a security feature onto the investment bars, the 400-ounce bar and the kilo bar, it only made sense for us to take that same technology, that fingerprinting technology, and put it on the bar as a way to secure the bars, so that more to the business as opposed to an end client, they would be able to validate that the bar they have in their ecosystem is indeed the RCM bar.
And this actually was more of a response by the Royal Canadian Mint to just stay ahead of the curve as opposed to reacting to problems. Is that the right way to put it?
Yes. I mean, when you're thinking about it, it's no different than a lot of retail products. You're fighting for market share. So you want to be the coin of choice. So you want to make investors feel most comfortable buying your coin.
Is it possible for you to talk a little bit about how the DNA process works?
Certainly at a high level I can. But you kind of said it. So we put a unique signature on the die that is producing the coin. So for the life of that die, all of that coins have that signature, and that signature is registered in a database, which when you take a picture of the coin, it can search and find that is indeed a true signature. That noise map, as it's called, is unique, right? And it's very microscopic. So it's not something that you can replicate with like a 3D printer or anything of that nature.
Right, and the dies don't last particularly long, because obviously if you're putting tens or more tons of pressure to stamp out that coin, that must take its toll on the dies, so you be changing them relatively regularly.
Yeah, the Ottawa manufacturing isn't my area of expertise, but the dies do have a limited lifetime. And so every time we create a new die, we create a signature for that die and register it, so that you have, over the course of the 10 years this security feature's been out there, a number of signatures to support the coins that are in the market.
Fantastic. So not only can you prove that it's real, but you can actually say, well, that was made by that die, probably in that time period then.
Yeah.
And all of those features are components that you can actually contribute to an industry-wide distributed ledger technology to actually have further detail about your coins, your bars, all your product.
Correct. When we register a bar onto the system, we can tell the system that it has the DNA technology as a security feature. So the owner of that bar would see that as an attribute and could validate that.
Just looking forward, are there risks that you see in the supply chain, or are there risks around transparency that are developing that you guys are worried about, or what do you see as the potential hurdles that could develop?
I'm not sure there's risk around transparency. There's considerations, certainly, right, around clients' privacy, making sure we don't breach our contracts with the clients. You want to ensure that any records that are on the system are secure, right? Cybersecurity, that kind of thing, which is why a distributed ledger technology is a good choice, right? The immutable records associated with that. You don't want any commercially sensitive data shared, right? I think you want to be transparent, but the Bullion Genesis doesn't replace our ERP system, right? So it's we still have our manufacturing and business systems that are going to be integrated with the Bullion Genesis and feed the appropriate information, but it doesn't replace, right? So you want to keep the commercial side off. I think at a more industry level, there's some definitions that need to be agreed upon so that the industry is using the same terminology across the piece. Even things around provenance, like what is commingled gold, would be something that the industry needs to agree what type of information for provenance on commingled gold is shared compared to like a segregated gold where it's very straightforward. It came from a specific source, right? So these things, once they're ironed out and everybody is participating, will make that data flow easier.
It's interesting. It's almost like the technology is pushing us to answer the questions we know we've had to answer for a long time, right? Which is static data around basic information on the gold market. Exactly. And normalizing it, standardizing it, and agreeing simple things.
Apparently simple things, but if you look at just the debates and the discussions that are going on about what constitutes recycled gold, then it may be obvious to a refiner or to somebody that analyzes the supply and demand of the gold market what is recycled gold, but other end clients and other organizations may have different definitions and justifications.
I think you're right. I think on the other end of the spectrum, there are simple things like short names for refiners and different data points and a lot of the data that's flowing through the market in general that could really just be quickly dealt with. But you're absolutely right. There's some challenging corners of the market that need to be really well thought through. And this is where the tech can help. Rob, a lot of this is actually very consistent and aligned with the work we've been spearheading called Bar Integrity GBI, as the initiative is known, working on distributed ledger technology using the platform Exedris has to offer. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about the Royal Canadian Mint's understanding of that program and involvement to date?
Sure. I maybe go back even a little bit further, right? So I think for me, conversations started around GBI, in the 2018, 2019 timeframe where the concepts were coming out. And then just prior to the pilot, so how we started looking at our Bullion DNA was part of that GBI, security feature, and then the, tracing and tracking concepts. And we started to do a little work internally around, while we were porting the security feature, we were also looking at what was on the market, whether we would, reinvent the wheel and make one ourselves, whether we would, buy one that was out there. Is there something that was industry specific? And as we were doing our research, as time would have it, the World Gold Council LBMA pilot got announced. So we were quite happy to put our hand up and join that program. So we took on both platforms that were part of that. And I would say we actually pushed them pretty hard. We exercised them. We tried to break them. We tried to make sure that we understood what was in it for, where we would do what any functionality, the terminology, all of that we went through. In fact, we even went as far as doing work with other proponents as part of the LBMA life cycles, but we had them set us up with our own accounts so we could exercise the entire supply chain and understand the people that we were going to be shipping bars to, what they would have to do if they were on it, that kind of functionality. And then we did our procurement, and in 24 we partnered with Exedris. Well, we partnered in 23, launched in 24.
And how has your experience been of using this? You've been using it now for a few months, since the beginning of 24.
Yeah, I guess internally we used it for a year testing. We've been using it for 24. I will say we are walking before we run. So with that in mind, we're being selective about what products or what gold we put onto the Bullion Genesis in the short term. But it goes well. It's easy to use, right? It's very intuitive. The screens are intuitive. The team I have that loads it are all easily loaded through CSV files at this point, right? It's very simple.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. We're working with other members in the supply chain, the ecosystem in the gold market. For example, our member firms are committing to and coming on the system as well. It's been fascinating to listen to how they're resourcing the project. Sounds like you've got a team dedicated, or how did you go about structuring the analysis and then the team? Because it sounds like you were able to manage it quite well.
Yeah, so with two different things. I think we had a project team, right, which involved the manager of our settlement desk, the people that would generally be loading the shipment data both in and out, right, that flows through our settlement desk. We had our IT group, so we had our architect, we had the IT QA guys, we had a business analyst, we had the commercial team, a member of the commercial team, looking and evaluating platforms and being involved in sort of our beta testing internally. Now that we're live, effectively, it's the settlement desk that utilizes the system. So when I say team, it's our settlement desk department that uses it.
I guess one thing from my perspective, listening to that, the flows of metal, the inventory management, which is part of your job description as well, is a lot more complicated and involved at a refinery, and therefore I think much bigger in terms of staffing and importance than it would be in a gold mine. And have you heard from our members what challenges they're facing with this?
Well, I think a lot of what Rob's talked about in terms of what they're thinking about is how to project manage it to get it embedded into their processes, because at the end of the day, it's a fantastic technology, but they need to fit it into normal processing. And it sounds like that's exactly how you approached it. I mean, it's pretty basic project management, but it doesn't feel disruptive to the flow of activities, and it could actually be well managed. And that's part of what we're hearing from our membership, is that once they understand where and how to get the project underway, they're willing to sign on and commit.
Yeah, I think you've hit it, right? It's not disruptive. It's just understanding the workflow and figuring out how to streamline it a bit. Again, ideally, there will be a way to have this flow and only enter the data once for most people. And I think right now, as everybody grows, it is some duplication of effort. And in the long term, that should go away, right? And everything should flow and eliminate work as opposed to adding to it.
So aside from the Royal Canadian Mint, Joe, what's been the uptake from the producer sector?
So we've had every one of our member firms commit to sign on to and load their data into distributed ledger technology. Barrick, Sabania, and Endeavor are three examples of firms that are actually getting the project underway. But we understand that this will be a complex project, and looking at their operating flows and finding ways to integrate the technology is going to be where they're going to need to be spending their time. So we expect them to engage, and they have committed to do so. But it'll take some time for it to be fully vetted and fully engaged into their programs.
And I think that's quite representative of the Gold Bar Integrity program and the success that we're having with the initiative. We've seen some rigorous testing. We've seen some people implementing it. And there's a lot of people committing that they will do so. But it is going to take time for all aspects of the gold market, the supply chain, etc., to fully implement this. But I think it's wonderful technology, and it's great to see firms beginning to take it up.
So I think what's fascinating about the opportunity with the technology, picking these different points along the supply chain brings gold into the ecosystem using this distributed ledger technology. We've been in dialogue with certain custodian banks as well about having existing gold and new gold coming into their system in the similar way, tracking and tracing and bringing it into their books and records, etc. Even at the fund level, an exchange traded fund could have a use case. And if it's being populated by others in the ecosystem, the use case becomes even more powerful for an end consumer to simply say, I know that I can access the portal, see gold that I own, and know I can track and trace all the way back to source, whether it's a mine or a refiner. And even if it starts with a refiner before a mine, it's still value add.
We're seeing that as well. We've had some of our, we call it allocated storage clients, asking if we can load their bars onto the system. So we've been exploring loading the allocated storage bars on so that, again, they would have access to see their bar stocks. So it's legacy data, which means in this case, the provenance wouldn't be there, but they would have a digitized system to look at their bar stocks as opposed to, having to get a report emailed to them or an Excel sheet with a bar list, right? So we give them instant access to their current bar list, and then they could make requests to move or audit accordingly.
What about your downstream customers? So I'm thinking of the people that are taking physical kilobars or other gold products off you. Are they beginning to make use of this system yet?
Keep in mind, as a toll refiner, we're often dealing with most of the financial institutions, right, and not the end users, right? So I would say we're still rolling that out to them, and that's probably a slower road than the upstream clients, right?
Do you see any benefits with the logistics providers as well with the distributed ledger technology or the platform itself? Can that help improve efficiencies there, or how do you think about those firms?
In most cases, we're going to enter that data on their behalf.
Yeah.
Right. So it's there, it's registered, but we're putting it on as part of the shipment as opposed to them in the middle, right? Honestly, I think it's a challenge for the logistics providers because they take a lot of material to a lot of different places.
So
right?
much moving so fast.
So much moving so fast, presumably possibly on different platforms. So one of the things we did when we signed on with Exedris is we had the creation of these RCM only nodes. We created an upstream node and a downstream node. The RCM only nodes are available free to our clients to use and participate on the platform with respect to their business with us. The concept was to allow them to see the benefits of the platform without necessarily having to outlay cost. So a try before you buy approach, get them to see the benefits and interested, and have them become full members and participate in the supply chain.
It sounds a very sensible marrying of commercial considerations along with technology, and I think that should be applauded.
So Rob, in your honest opinion, if you were to look at some of the competitors you have in the refining space, would you be encouraging them to look at the systems? Would you be encouraging them to consider your success model as one for them to grow their businesses?
Yes, I think I would. I think the overall value of transparency probably outweighs any sort of competitive advantage. I think we can differentiate ourselves along with transparency, right?
That's excellent. And Rob, we are grateful to hear that because that's exactly what the Gold Bar Integrity program is intending to achieve, which is grow the industry and actually give the industry a competitive advantage over alternatives to precious metals and gold. So we're really excited to hear that.
So Rob, tell us your fun fact, or indeed I believe it's a story about gold.
I joke internally a lot that I have the best job at the Royal Canadian Mint. The experiences of meeting people like yourselves, growing around the world has been great. But the story I wanted to share was, you're often dealing with the head offices of mines, and you really, I haven't had an opportunity to go to a mine, which we started 2 years ago doing road trips. And so last year we went to Northern Ontario and had the opportunity to go underground, which was a very unique experience for any of us that had never been. So from getting in the little elevator, complete darkness while you descend for 10 or 15 minutes, we ended up just under 2 kilometers underground. But so that in itself is interesting. But what is surprising is when the elevator doors open, the infrastructure underneath, right? The amount of work that goes in, the thought by structural engineers. It's not just taking the ore out of the ground, right? It's a small city down there to support the workers, right? You've got substations, you've got places for them to eat, right? You've got places to work on machinery because none of this stuff comes up to the ground at lunchtime. So just the sheer size. We drove for what seemed like all the way back to Ottawa from Northern Ontario to get to where they were drilling the ore bodies. So it was just eye-opening for me to understand the amount of effort they go to extract ore from the ground.
Which mine did you visit?
It was in Kirkla Lake at Macassa.
Okay, yeah. I've visited a few of the mines up there, including La Ronde, which is even deeper and even more extraordinary. So it sounds fascinating.
We did La Ronde, but we did LZ5, which is, I don't know the terminology, but you drive in a circle.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a shaft.
There was a spiral ramp here.
This was my first shaft, and it was very impressive.
So I'm curious, is it a Tim Hortons or a Lone Star that they've got down there for food?
I didn't see that.
So I've got a really interesting fun fact. I'm picking up on all these fun facts while I'm here in Canada. And if I'm not mistaken, Canada has been refining gold longer than it's been maintaining an Air Force. Am I right?
I have no idea, but
I think you started in 1911, and we're at a 100-year anniversary of the Royal Canadian Air Force. So I think you are established longer than an Air Force.
Possible.
So well done.
Well done.
Yeah, mine is a lot more prosaic fact about gold, and it's something that I read about some years ago and actually checked it today to see that it's true. Some of our fun facts sometimes may require some investigation, but gold is the only metal that you can combine together at room temperature just by pressing it together. And in some cases, a stack of gold coins have actually self-welded themselves together just under the weight of them. Now, I doubt that's a problem that you have at the Royal Canadian Mint, because you take very good care of your gold coins, but it is something to bear in mind if you own lots of gold. Don't stick it all on one pile.
I think that's a fun fact that needs to be checked. Thank you, Rob, for joining us today. It's been a pleasure to have you on the episode, and we've learned a lot about distributed ledger technology, your process of bringing on board activities that we're very focused on as well. Join us again on our next episode of Unearthed, where you get your podcasts.